I'm Melanie Trailer, and welcome back to the StashWork Quilt-alongs. This is our week 3 video for Checkie Quilt. So if this is the first time you're hearing about this quilt-along, you want to jump in, links to sign up, pattern, all the stuff is right below this video. Sponsor this week is Meander and Make, my favorite shop. Details about the prize is going to be at the end of this video. And last week we demoed the block, so if you missed that, you can go back to week 2 and watch the demo. This week though, we are talking about batch sewing. This is one of my favorite ways to get quilts finished, is batching every step of it. So if you're looking for how to speed up the process, that's what we're doing today. So this is not for everyone. You may like making your 3 blocks at a time, and if you do, keep going. But if you can't, if you're always hurting for time or you're having trouble getting things done each week, this might be a way to speed things up for you. I make a lot of quilts using this very method of batch sewing, and what it is you batch every single step. So for me, I had 57 blocks to make, and I worked through each step using all of the pieces that I needed for those blocks, meaning I made all of my strips. I pressed all of my strips. I cut all of my strips. Then, every step of it, I did it for all of the blocks at one time. So at the end of all these steps, I end up with every single one of my blocks finished at the same time. This particular quilt, Checkie quilt, it really works well on. So we're going to walk through that, and I will see you here when we're done. Okay, so batch sewing, that's what we're doing. And I've already showed you how many blocks that you're making based on what quilt size you're working on, but I'm going to go ahead and pop up one more slide that tells you how many strip sets, because I feel like that's a better mindset to be in. I think it's the same as last week, except for that small 36-ish inch quilt size. That one, I think you're making a little bit less. All right, I've gone ahead and pulled my light, my dark. We're going to do the exact same thing as we did last week, but instead of making one strip set at a time and then cutting our blocks, we're going to make everything that you need. So it's going to look like a big, huge chain piecing session happening. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that. So let me get everything lined up here. All right, so we're doing light on top of dark, and then just remember, just remember that your selvage is on your right side and your cut edge is on your left. So when you put the light on top of the dark, it's going to look like that. We'll fold it together just like last week, and we're going to start sewing right here on that cut edge. So let me start sewing. Try to maintain that 1/4 inch, and just a reminder, that means you're sewing the edge of your fabric to the inside of that 1/4 inch line. All right, and then so now that we've got that one done, we're just going to keep going. So I'm going to get another strip set ready to go, and I'm just going to start sewing that one. So no thread cutting, chain piecing style. And we're going to do that all the way through this process. We're going to sew them all together, press them all together, and then cut them all together so that all of our blocks end up done all at once, right? All the blocks for this week get done all at once. The thing I like about this, there's a beauty to 1 or 2 blocks at a time. I like it too. And there's a place for that, but there's also a place for this batch sewing, especially when all the blocks are exactly the same. Breaking them up in task, I feel like keeps you on track, especially for some of those skills where we forget how to do it. I have to, every time I do half rectangle triangles, I have to wait a minute. So having that repetition all at one time, I feel like make sure that I'm staying in the right mind frame of getting that task correctly done, if that makes sense. All right, so that's 2 done, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I have all of mine completed. For me, that's 19 strips because I'm making that large size quilt. So that's a lot. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me sew all my strip sets together, of course. I'm going to get this done, and I'll show it to you when I have it. Okay, all sewn. And, you know, you can see it is just a lot. So I'm just going to go through and clip these threads that connect them. I like to use these Durasnips, and they're from Havells. There's a lot of different brands you can buy, but I'm a Havells ambassador, so I use Havells. And I keep these on a little hook right on top of my sewing machine because this is the only task I actually use these for, but they work. They're so good at doing that task. So just go through and clip all these threads. And I'm trying to keep, you know, them from getting twisted. If they twist on me, I will straighten them up. So it looks like this, where I think it's my light is always on top. And that just keeps them kind of all going in the same direction so that when I go and press, I don't have to put a lot of thought into them being in, you know, moving them in different directions. Fix tags. Let's go to the pressing mat. So I'm going to just kind of move these right here. And I'm just going to take a few at a time. Take a few at a time and then, you know, set those seams. So just like that. Not a lot of time needs to be dedicated, just, you know, kind of running through them, making sure that, you know, all my tension issues or any tiny tension issues will get fixed or get settled. And then, you know, now my seams will move a little bit better. Let me run through this real quick. All right. Now that I have it, put them all over here. And then I kind of want to make sure and see how my light, just to make it easier for my pressing to flow better, I'm going to just flip them so that my dark is always, you know, on top here. And just doing it that way, I know it's just like such a little thing and you don't have to do it that way or even need to, but it just makes it easier for my pressing flow to happen because I can just do this now, right? Instead of having to, you know, have it going the opposite way and having to try to maneuver that seam this way. It just makes things more simpler when I can do that. All right, so let's get this pressed. Grab my pressing spray and then I'm just going to spray that right on that seam and press again. I'll do a few of these, you know, on top of each other, and then we'll move them away and start another batch. But a few of them on top here like this is fine. I had a few people mention I'm not letting the starch dry, but the iron dries the starch, so that's, you know, kind of a non-issue. These bottles, they mist the fabric, so you're not ending up with these big gobby wet spots like you were, you know, with some of those older bottles. If you're finding that your 4-patch blocks from like last week, if there were a few of them that came out the wrong size, one thing besides the 1/4 inch sewing error, one thing that sometimes happens is we don't get this pushed, you know, out all the way, so it ends up with like a little folded pucker there. Check that because that could be some of the issues. All right, and now I will take this little batch and just kind of move it out of my way and start the next one. So I'm going to go through my stack of strip sets, get them all pressed, and then we'll meet back up at the cutting mat. All right, we are going to cut. And last week I showed you how to cut with your basic ruler, but today I'm going to drag out this Stripology ruler, which is ridiculously expensive, but does it just make things go fast? And I'm going to show you that. But I can use it for everything that I strip piece, but I can also use it for all my sub cutting. Now I know they have their own videos. I know that they use it for, you know, just cutting fabric, but I don't like cutting fabric that's folded. So, or at least folded multiple times than the manufacturers fold. So I don't use it for my regular cutting, but I do use it for a lot of the sub cutting I do. So I'm going to show you that. And again, I'm showing you this, but you saw me do it last week, no problem with a basic ruler. So, you know, feel free to use what you have. And I wanted to say, at the end of the week 2 video, I talked about how when you're using, you know, directional fabrics, one of your blocks ends up upside down. Here's a good example. Ends up looking like that, which is fine. I think it's fine. I told you how that kind of bothers me in a lot of quilts, but this quilt kind of forces me to let that go. I had someone message me, email me something, Vicky, and she was talking about how it bothered her too, and that she had found a workaround. And I started thinking about it. And one thing that you could do if that bothers you to the point of not having it is you could make 2 strip sets of the exact same 2 fabrics and combine those, and then you would be able to have enough to make all of your directional prints go the exact same way. So thanks, Vicky, for letting me know that. That was a pretty cool workaround. And of course, I'm too late in this to start doing it that way. So I'm going to have a lot of upside down fabrics, and I'm going to be okay with it. More participants messaged me, and a handful of people said they had the wrong size of width. And then one person said she cut on the wrong side of the fat quarter. So while not ideal, it's okay. You could definitely still, if you were working with smaller strips, you would just not be able to get as many blocks per strip set. So in each of these strip sets, you know, we're getting 3 blocks. Maybe you've made a strip set where you can only get 2. That's okay. That's workable. It just means that you're going to have to make more strip sets than what the pattern says. So I'll let you figure out the math on that, but it's not I've got to start over or I'm throwing in the towel type of situation. You can work around that, okay? All right, so I think that's everything I heard this week. We're going to cut these, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Let me put my glasses back on. Remember that we're cutting, you know, from that cut edge. You're not starting with the selvage. And then you're going to get that on the cutting mat the same way that we did last week. But I'm going to put multiple ones on my cutting board, and I'm going to cut multiple ones, multiple strip sets at the same time. But I am going to kind of stagger them. They're not all exactly on top of each other. So I'm using these, you know, 1-inch grids to stagger them, so they're all on a different horizontal line. And I'm going to show you this from another viewpoint in just a second. All right, so that's 4 at one time. And I'm going to grab my Stripology ruler, get it set. And let me show you what this looks like. And then I'm going to give you that different viewpoint so you can see it, you know, on a looking down angle. 1 or 2 things I don't like about this ruler. One is that I can't go 3.5 inches all the way down it. I'm going to have to get out my basic ruler to cut that last one because it only cuts certain numbers. Like it'll do 2.5 just fine, but it won't do 3.5. Another thing, my favorite rotary cutter, it can't use it. It's got to have one where the blade pops all the way out. So I have a separate rotary cutter. Let me show you the difference. rotary cutter I always use. Rotary cutter I have to use with the Stripology ruler. You see how it pops out of its shell? This one, while it's safer to me, I don't cut myself as much with this one as I would if I left that thing open, you know? This can't get into that Stripology ruler. All right, so I'm going to show you what it looks like. The thing about this ruler means that I don't have to pick it up every time I make my cut. I mean, that's so much better, right? Pick it up. I've got to make that last cut. I have to get out my regular ruler and give it one more cut. Garbage, garbage, and then boom, all of them cut all at one time. I'm going to keep these grouped for easy piecing. So I'm going to keep all the same color combinations together. But I mean, and that's what that Stripology ruler does. It just, you don't have to pick up your ruler, which is so stinking handy. I'm going to put these out of the way and let me give you that different viewpoint. All right, here we're going to do it together again. I'll line these up, you know, edge of fabric on a horizontal line on my mat. And note that I'm, you know, cutting on my, I'm not starting with my selvage. And then you see how I'm going up an inch every time. Just kind of to keep those seams from being right on top of each other when I cut them. That way I won't have little miscuts or parts that aren't cut all the way through. We know how common that is. All right, here comes the Stripology ruler. Let me get you a little bit better. I'm going to cut on this line here. And what I'm going to do is the same thing that I do when I cut with my regular ruler, is I'm lining up the lines of the ruler with the lines on my mat. And when I get one in the right place, this one here and this one here, then the rest of them, you know, are in the right place. And this ruler, you know, is numbered just like a regular ruler. It has these teardrop shapes, and that is where my rotary cutter, you know, can go in at. So double check that I have it in the right place and cut. I like to bring my rotary cutter right back down so that I know exactly where I cut at. I find that if I pick it up, I forget which line I'm on. So count out my cut where I need to cut at, and then this is so time saving, right? All right, I gotta use my basic ruler for that last one. And there we go, all cut. So again, I'm gonna keep them grouped by color. So I'd love to know what you thought about the ruler, or if you've used it before, what do you not like about it? I know a lot of people use it for all their cutting, and I do not. I just don't like cutting on that fold. I just feel like my cuts have to be, uh-oh, that one didn't get quite. My cuts have to be super precise, or everything's going to come out the wrong size, and I'm going to be mad or frustrated in the middle of my quilt making, and I don't like that. All right, I'm going to finish the rest of these on my own, and then we'll start pinning them all together. Let's get our pin cushion now. Get to pinning these, and you already know how to do that. So I am going to do it for every single one of that we've cut, so all of them, so a whole bunch. I'm going to finish this up on my own, and then I will meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, I have all of mine pinned. I like this batch sewing. I feel like everything flows just a little bit better. There's dust everywhere. But so we're all pinned here, and then now we're just gonna run them all through the machine, chain piecing style, and you know, get them all sewn together and actually turned into those 4-patch blocks. So here we go. And again, just kind of keep up with that edge of your fabric. That's where your eyes are going, you know, not at your needle, but at the edge of your fabric, so that we end up with a really nice 1/4-inch seam and our blocks come out the right size. And you're keeping the edge of that fabric on the inside of that 1/4-inch line engraved on your needle plate. So we just keep putting them through one after another, taking the pins out as we go. And it looks like this. And then I'm going to end up with this giant string of chain piecing. You've already seen that. You just keep going. And this is a nice therapeutic block, I think. And I feel like doing this batch sewing just kind of adds to that. You end up with these longer stretches of the very same task, but it's got a more efficient feel to me. All right, so I'm not gonna make you watch me do this. I think I've got like 50, I've got 57 of these. So it's gonna take me, at least half an hour. So I'm gonna finish this up on my own, and then I will meet you back at the pressing mat. Okay, all sewn. We're just gonna set our seams like we've been doing. So I'm gonna run through these really fast. And I like to do them in these little batches. So making sure they all get enough heat. I know this takes some extra time, but it really does help, your accuracy. And it helps you get a better press when you do finally, press them open. And then once they're all set, we do our pressing these seams open. I'm just getting a whole bunch of these on here. That way when I spray, I'm spraying, multiple blocks at once, right? So that's 6. I guess it really depends on how big your pressing mat is. And then I spray them all at once. Now you can also, do that part one at a time, however you want to do it. Find what works best for you. And that kind of goes for all of this efficiency batch sewing that we're talking about today. Take what you need from this and, ditch the rest. We all, like different things or have different preferences or, work different ways. And definitely, pick something that works for you. What works for me may not work for you. So I'm going to continue getting all these pressed, and you can see how all of my blocks are ending up, complete at the same time. I feel like this is just a much better and faster way to work. It doesn't work with all quilts, but it works for this quilt. So I'm going to get this finished up, and I will show them to you when I got them all done. All right, let's talk prizes. Our sponsor, Meander and Make, that's me. I am giving away a fat quarter bundle of my brand new line, Made of Magic. This is a 20-piece collection, and you'll receive every piece in the collection. Made of Magic actually releases on April 1, so it will ship to you as soon as it's here. To enter the giveaway, there is a button in your email and a whole lot more details. But you'll scroll towards the bottom of that week 3 email, and you'll click the button to enter. It'll ask you to upload a photo of your progress. Maybe you'll share one of your blocks. I'd love to see that. That's what most people are doing. And there's a couple of extra ways to enter if you want. So if you wanted extra entries, there's a few little tiny tasks that you can do to gain extra entries. If you need help, if you need anything, or if you just want to connect, reach out on Instagram or Facebook. You can use the hashtag StashWorkQAL or hashtag CheckieQuilt. Those are the hashtags that our participants are using. And quilters are a helpful bunch of people. So if you are struggling, the group would love to help you. Don't sit there and struggle all alone. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't use batch sewing, at least hearing about it. Have a great week, and I will see you next Friday.